I'm living his will. He's got me in his hands. I'm chilling, chilling, chilling with purpose. God has a purpose. God has a plan. I'm living his will. He's got me in his hands. I'm chilling, chilling, chilling with purpose.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chilling with Purpose, the broadcast that rescues the heart and the mind. We are so excited this evening to complete our blended family series with the beautiful Carlotta. Her husband will not be on with us, but you know what? She will be speaking very well for the both of them. Before we dive in and get started, welcome first of all, Carlotta. Thank you for saying yes
Thank
and
you.
hanging
Thank you.
out with us. Let's get some announcements done and then we're going to dive in to our program. I don't have a new flyer for Courtney's event, but it's going to be July 26th when I get an updated flyer. Then I'll do that one. I just wanted to put a reminder out there. This is a next month event, and you should see it going around on Facebook. But what we have happening this Saturday is our girl, Selena Jackson, up there in the top with the stripes right here, right here, right here. Wave at them, Selena. She is hosting Daughters of Zion Healed, War and Love. It is this Saturday at 10 o'clock. And all the information is on the flyer. You should see this flyer also circulating on Facebook. You are most welcome to message her on Messenger if you need additional information. The location is on the flyer, date and time, and who will be speaking. The phenomenal Mrs. Michelle Jones will be leading praise and worship. She is anointed of the Lord. So, looking forward to a good time there. If your schedule is free, come on and join us. And it's a free event this Saturday, 10 o'clock. All right, let's dive on in. Oh, thank you. Okay, wait, let's put up her new flyer just so I have it. Oops, wrong one. Got this one. All right, thank you. So it's going to be July 26th. That's on a Saturday, and it's in Pueblo. We're going to be at the same location. Those of you that went this month, don't forget to bring a chair. All right. So you'll hear more about that as we get closer, but I just wanted to do a shout out. This is the one I want y'all to come to this Saturday if you're free. Oh, and look, this is Courtney is going to be ministering at this event. These two ladies. Yay. Okay. So, Carlotta, how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
It's like,
Long time no see.
It is. It's been quite a while. It's actually been a long time. What, maybe 7 or 8 years since I've seen
No,
you?
actually, I saw you at my aunt's homegoing
Yes.
celebration.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. 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 Well, I'm glad to see you again under good circumstances. Thank you for saying yes to be on our broadcast with us. We have found that this series has been so enlightening for a lot of people, even single parents that have children that desire to be married. They're going to become a blended family. So it's been some good information coming out, and we wanted to take the whole month of June and make this a complete series. So we don't take it lightly of you giving up some of your time for us to talk about your blended family. Before I have you kick it off, Sandra, Selena, how y'all doing tonight?
I'm doing fine.
That's good. Sandra did nod her head. Yes, yes. That's our producer.
I am on mute. I am so sorry. I am doing wonderful. It's
Good.
raining in Colorado, so it's my favorite weather.
Yes, yes, we love the rain. Her and I love the rain. And
Yes.
I quickly opened my window so I could hear it a little more. So
Yep.
come on, rain. And y'all, let me tell y'all something. You want it to rain, not just so that it feeds the earth, but those of us that have moths, the more that it rains, the less moths you will see. So you want a good dousing of rain, because if it rains in a balanced fashion, you won't be seeing a whole lot of them in your house. Just wanted to give you that for free. Give you that for free. And then whatever the birds get, because I learned that the reason the birds be flying like they crazy, they eating the moths. Keep up the good work, birds. Keep up the good work. Them things act like they on LSD, and I just can't. I can't. All right, so we're gonna dive right on in. Carlotta, I'd love to start off with, and then you can tell us, dive right on into your story. How many years have you been married, and how many children do you and your husband have as a blended family?
20, yeah, 22 years.
Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
July 11th, 2003. And we have 4 children total. I have one from my previous marriage. He has 2 from previous relationships, and then we have 1 together.
Awesome, awesome. All right, dive on in. Tell us your story, and we'll ask questions
So,
as we go along.
so what do you, where should I begin? Do you want the whole story, or do you want just a little bit of what occurred?
Oh, we like the whole story. If you want to tell the whole story, we like all the 411.
Okay, so I actually met my husband at my cousin's wedding, Tanisha's sister, Nicole.
Oh, how cute. Wow.
I actually met him there. I was actually going through a divorce from my previous marriage,
Okay.
and he was in the wedding. I was not. I was just, there as a guest. After the wedding, there was a reception, and I had my son with me, and we went through like the line to get food.
Mm-hmm.
And he walked up to my son and, was like, "Hi, young man," and went to shake his hand. And I was like, "No, we don't talk to strangers. We don't talk to strangers." And he said, "That's okay. You could be mean to me if you want to. You're going to be my wife anyway." And I laughed.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I laughed. That was June 10th of 1999. I laughed. The reason that I laughed is because I was going through a divorce, and the last thing on my mind was any marriage or any man or any of those things. So I watched him kind of move around the reception and talk to people. And I knew that he was talking to them about me because, people kind of look over or no. So I was there, but my son was going to be with his dad. So he asked me to dance a couple of times. He would come over and talk, and I would be like, no, just no.
Mm-hmm.
So because he was really getting on my nerves and I needed to leave, I waited until he danced with someone else that I knew, and I snuck out the back door. In my mind, that was the last time I would see him, but it wasn't. That was during a time in my life where I was very heavy on the club scene. So I would go out with my cousin, and I was always at the club. So I saw him at another club, and we were having a birthday party for a girlfriend, and they offered him food that we brought, and it was okay. We danced, and he asked me for my phone number, and I was like, okay. Well, I waited until he went to the back room to play pool, and I left. I didn't. Here again, my mind was on trying to get through what I was going through. I had other things that I was dealing with, so that just wasn't for me. And I didn't really like him like that. He was super popular, a lot of women. No, I didn't need any more headaches. So I would see him at 2 more clubs. The third time that I saw him in the club, I waited for him to go to the back bar, and I would always wait for him to get occupied, and then I would sneak out. So the third time I waited for him to go to the back bar, and as soon as he did, I went around the other way to the front door. However, he didn't really go to the back bar. He went to the front door because he said he knew that I was going to sneak out again. So when I went around to the door, he was standing there. And I was like, got to be more careful.
Can I have a question? Why were you running and sneaking out?
I didn't like him like that. And I just had a lot of things going on in my life. I was going through a divorce. So I didn't really like him like that. I wasn't trying to be in a relationship. I wasn't thinking of any of those things.
So I have another question that pricked my mind. Because this is just my brain and I could be wrong. Because if I don't like you and I wasn't thinking about you that way, I wouldn't be running. So for me, the running means there was some kind of attraction. And you, because of the situation, that's from my point of view, some kind of attraction. So, but you didn't want to get caught up because of what was going on. So you say, hey, you know what? Danger is here. Let me run.
Yeah, hindsight is 20/20.
Okay. All right, you can continue now.
You know what else though? Carlotta, before she goes in for the kill, this is what I remember of her. She loves to be nice. She'll try. So that was really her trying to be nice before she dropped the hammer on you. And like that, and in some regards, you know, the islands, man, y'all just go for the throat on day one. We might wait like 2 or 3 days if they go for the throat.
What island?
Trinidad and Tobago?
No, Carlotta. Who's in
no,
the
I'm
island?
talking about you.
No, that was
she's American. Your island.
Oh, okay.
I'm making the difference there.
Yeah.
And you're correct. I was really trying to be nice by just saying no. But, you know, the persistence and things like that, it was like, you know what? Fine. Here's my number. Here's my number, because this is crazy. If you're going to be waiting at the front door, fine. So after that night, he called a couple of times, but, you know, that was in 99. So, you know, we still had landlines. We were using cell phones, but not in the capacity that we use them now. So he called a couple of times, but I would be moving around and I just didn't call back. My oldest son, he would go visit his dad every other weekend. And so when he was with his dad, that was my free time. So one of those weekends, I decided, let me call this man back, because he's called me like 5 times. So I called him, but I called him from the landline and not the cell phone. And he's like, why don't I have this number? I was like, it doesn't even matter. You know, I'm like, this is my house and whatever. And he's like, oh, okay. So we had good conversation. And I was like, okay, well, I just finished cleaning up. My vacuum cleaner it doesn't work. So I need to go get a vacuum cleaner. So nice talking to you. He's like, well, I can take you out to eat. I was like, okay, when? He was like, today. I said, no, I need to clean up. I need to finish vacuuming. I've cleaned up. He's like, well, where are you going to go get a vacuum from? Kmart. Y'all remember Kmart on Colfax and Chambers? I'm going to go to Kmart and get a vacuum. And he's like, well, how about I come pick you up? We go get a vacuum and then we go eat. And I was like, okay, fine. My son wasn't there, whatever. So he comes and gets me. We go get a vacuum. He buys the vacuum. And I'm like, I got it. And he did it. I go to get, and then the person is handing us the receipt. I'm like, well, wait a minute. So then we go eat. We go to Olive Garden. That was my first time ever eating Olive Garden. It was amazing. And then I think we went and kind of just like hung out a little bit. And then I went home. So that weekend of hanging out turned into more weekends, but only when I didn't have my son because he couldn't meet my son. So it turned into more weekends of us hanging out when I didn't have my son. We would go downtown, walk around, hang out. We would go to little events, go to the park, just whatever. My mother ended up getting very ill and losing a lot of blood, and she ended up at Denver Health, Denver General then, So he called one day and he said, I'm down the street from your house. I'm going to come by. I was like, well, I'm getting ready to go to the hospital because my mom, and he's like, oh, well, do you mind if I go with you? I'm like, well, okay, but really? So he went with me to the hospital to see my mom. And I introduced him to my mom as my friend. And she said, oh, you like her? And he said, yeah, I really like her. I was like, okay, stop. So just conversation. And then he tells my mom, hey, I wanted to come meet you. I need to ask you a question. And so I turn and look like, what are you doing? And he's like, I said, what do you mean you need to ask her? He was like, no. My mom's like, let him talk to me. I was like, fine. I'm an only child. I'm my mother's only child, not my dad's, but I grew up with my mother my entire life. So he asked my mom if he can marry me. I left the room. I left the room because I was like, something is wrong with you. And here again, she's like, if you like her, then go ahead. I was like, really? So I'm not even here, present, nothing. So we stayed there a little while longer and we left. And I was like, why would you do that? And he said, well, it's customary. And that's what my dad said I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to ask the father. I said, I've already told you, I'm going through this divorce. I have life happening and I'm not interested in you like that. And he's like, okay. We continued to hang out pretty regularly. My divorce became final. So then I was like, well, I'm free. I've been married for 16 years. Let's see. I met someone else, a couple of other folks, and we just kind of hung out and nothing serious with anyone. I ran into my husband again at I don't know if you guys used to go out often, but Bernard's. There was a club called Bernard's on Peoria. I went to Bernard's, ran into a guy that I had met previously. My husband was there. So I danced with both of them. My husband and I, our thing was we would dance. We would dance all night. That was my thing. That was my workout. But I danced with the other guy that I met, and my husband got so mad and he was yelling and screaming, "You can't talk to him." And I'm like, hold on. I'm an adult. I'm single. I can do whatever I want. So we exchanged words. Well, come to find out, that guy was his cousin.
Wait a minute. The ex-husband and the current guy are related.
No,
Okay.
another guy that I met and my husband are cousins. We dated, and we like watched a movie or talked on the phone. Nothing big, but my husband was real upset, like, you can't talk to him. And I'm like, what do you mean? I can talk to whoever I want. And that's when he said, you can't talk to him. He's my cousin. And I was like, what? Oh, Lord. So we had a big blow up and we didn't talk after that. We didn't talk for months after that, because while I didn't know that other guy was his cousin, I was taken aback, because you don't get to tell me what to do in any environment. I don't care where it is or who it's with. You can have a conversation with your cousin, but you can't have a conversation with me. And you definitely can't tell me what to do. So because of that, we didn't talk. We didn't talk for months. And it was, life goes on, right?
Mm-hmm.
I kept doing what I was doing, and he was, I don't know, whatever. So come back around to the Winter Park Jazz Festival. I went up there with my friends, and he went up there with his brother and his friends. And we were in this condo, and we got all settled in, got our rooms, and I opened the window to the room that I was in. And I was like, I know that voice. So I went and looked out the window, and it was him and his brothers and his friends. And my friends were on the balcony. So I run through the townhome to the front and snatch them back in the townhome, like, no, you guys cannot be out here, because if he sees you, he's going to know I'm here. And no. So I make them come back in. They go in or whatever. And then we hear them coming back out and leave. And I'm like, okay, you can go back out.
That is.
And so we played this. I still ran the entire weekend. We went out that night, and it was standing room only. And we were walking through, and my friends are tall. They're like 6 feet and 6'2". And I'm only 5 feet. So he saw them, and he was like, and I knew it, because he was like, where's your friend? And they both moved over and pointed. So he bought us a drink. We talked, and he was like, do you have a seat? You guys are just getting here. I was like, no, we don't have seats, but we'll be okay. He said, hold on a minute. He went and cleared out a whole section for me, my friends, and my cousins so that we can sit down. He cleared out the whole section. So at that point, I'm like, okay, you know what? So the next day at the concert, I saw him, and I know a lot of people. So I'm talking to people, mingling, and here he comes. Are you talking to my woman? Are you talking to my wife? I'm like, if you don't stop doing that. And so that night, I told him that we could hang out. And I had a Cricket phone. Y'all remember Cricket?
I remember Cricket.
I had a Cricket phone, and he gave me this number But I'm telling you, he doesn't believe me, but that phone did not work. I did try to call him. I didn't go where he was because I didn't know which townhouse, which condo they were in, but I did try to call him. So the weekend went on and we all were leaving Monday. So we're loading stuff up. And so I come downstairs, and as I'm coming down the stairs, he's standing there like, really, you were right there this whole time? I was like, yeah, just a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah, just a little bit. So when we came back down, he worked nights at the time. So he had to work that night because it was a Monday. And then that weekend, I was like, fine, you know what? We're gonna give this a try and we'll see what happens. And at that point, he told me that he said, well, I just need to tell you something because I don't want you to hear it on the street. I want you to hear it from me. And I'm like, okay. His ex-girlfriend was pregnant. And I was like, deja vu. The reason I say that is because my ex-husband, when we got together, his ex-girlfriend was pregnant.
Wow.
So I went through that whole pregnancy and all of the things with him. And then one day he came to Kaiser East Clinic when I was in the lab working with a ring and asked me to marry him in front of my coworkers. His mother and his grandmother just so happened to be there because they were patients. I didn't realize that that's who they were. And he didn't realize that I knew them. I used to draw his grandmother's blood.
Wow.
So, when they saw me, they were like, oh, hey. And he was like, wait, how do you know? So he showed up at my job one day and proposed, embarrassed me to death.
You was asking for it. At this point,
I was like, oh my God. So we ultimately got married. Remember, I told you I met him on July 10th, 1999 at my cousin's wedding. We ultimately got married on July 11th, 2003.
Okay, 2003. Okay. 4 years later. So he didn't let up. Okay, so now
yes.
We have all of our children.
Correct.
We have a toddler now, right? Because
it's actually an infant because his son, it's a toddler, yes, because he was born February 4th.
Okay.
And he was born February 4th in 2001.
Okay.
So there's an infant. His mother is not happy that they're not together. So she doesn't want the baby around me. So I just was like, you know what? On the weekends that you're going to have your son, go over to your mom's house and spend time with your baby. I'll be here. We're together. So, go spend time with your baby. That's what's important. You spend time with my son every day, all day. Go spend time with your baby. She'll get through that. It's just going to take some time. She just had a baby, postpartum, the hormones, all of the things. So go spend time with your baby. And he did that for about a month. And then guess what?
You were pregnant. Ooh, wait.
So I was like, okay. He was super excited. His mom had been sick. And she always would ask me, when are you guys going to have a baby? I'm like, well, he had a daughter that lived in Arizona already, and then he has this infant, and then I have this 8-year-old. So that's 3 kids. I think that's plenty.
Right.
Yeah, right. So, we had talked about it, but not right then. So we planned it and talked about it, but it wasn't at that right time.
Mhm.
So his mom, he was excited. His mom was excited. My mom was excited. I was like, okay, let's get this over with. Because I'm getting old. I'm 28 at this point, like, wait a minute. I'm too old. You're supposed to not have kids after 26.
It's funny.
So I went through that 9 months of pregnancy. And when I say to you, that was the worst 9 months of my entire life. It was horrible.
Mhm.
I was sick. I threw up all day. I couldn't drink water. He used to make noodles or other stuff with green onions. Oh, I don't eat green onions to this day. We used to buy Colgate toothpaste. I don't use Colgate toothpaste to this day. I was so sick that I had to do home IV therapy because I had hyperemesis. I had a IV, everything. It was the worst 9 months of my life.
Mhm.
And he wanted more, but I was like, nah, not here. You better go marry somebody else and spin the block, come back and see me later, because I'm never doing this again. So his son was born February 4th of 1991, and our son was born December 11th of 1991. Our son was due on Christmas, but he came 2 weeks early. And he was still 7 pounds, 7 ounces. So there goes life starting with these children. And his daughter lived in Arizona. So she came down for the summer. We weren't married then. We were not married then. But she came down for the summer and he kept all of his kids together. And it was wonderful. I was like, oh, yeah, have fun. And we ended up getting married before she went back home to her mom.
Oh, nice. Okay, so now we have all 4 children. What are
Yes.
we doing? How are we blending? What are we doing to make this work?
Unfortunately, people have this mindset that children are going to have problems blending and getting along and things of that capacity. It's not the children. Children are resilient. Children thrive, especially with other children around.
Yes.
So my son was a year and a half or 2 years older than his daughter. And then the baby and the toddler were like 10, 11 months apart. So, the kids did just fine.
Mhm.
It was my son grasping the fact that now my mom's no longer with my dad, they're divorced, but now she's married this other guy that she has my little brother with, and he has this other child and this other child. And he was okay with the kids. He wasn't okay with my husband.
Okay.
He wasn't okay with my husband. My bonus son's mother still wasn't okay with me. She had in her mind that my goal was to take her son from her.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I was like, girl, I don't want the kids I got. I most definitely don't want to take nobody else's. So it was a process. And here again, you have to remember that we went through a phase where his mother was very sick.
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately ended up passing away. We split up during that time. His mother passed away. 6 months later, his grandmother passed away.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So we were in a bad space at that time.
Mm-hmm.
When his daughter came down he went to Arizona to get his daughter and her sister to come visit for the summer. I rented the car for him. Even though we weren't in a relationship as of yet, we had broken up,
Mhm.
but I rented the car so that he could go get his baby.
Mm-hmm.
He came back. He didn't have air conditioning. He came to my house with his children so that they're not hot. I'm like, oh no, they can't be over there burning up. It's 100 degrees outside.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's boiling in there. No. So he would come to the house, and that's ultimately when we decided to get married. When we had all of the children with us, and we just went to the Justice of the Peace. It was like a spur on the moment. I promise. It was like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. It was in the middle of the week. And we just made calls and told close family, hey, we're going to go down to this. We're going to get married today. More to come if you want to be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
We got up in the morning. We went downtown. We got a marriage license. They gave us a list of judges and magistrates who we could call
Mm-hmm.
to perform the ceremony. We found one. She was like, I live across the street from Washington Park. You know, bring whoever you want. It can be this great event, and then you guys can go to the park and take pictures. And that's exactly what we did.
Oh, that's cool.
That's exactly what we did.
Nice. Nice. Okay. So now we're married. You guys had already started the blending. You had said you guys had broke up. Had you broke up because of everything that was going on all at once? And it's just like, this is too much right now. What caused that breakup?
The breakup was because, as I stated, his mother was very ill.
Mm-hmm.
She was in the hospital, then she was in a rehabilitation center and so she was released from the rehabilitation center. And the conversation between him and myself, one of his brothers and his brother's girlfriend, was that we would move in with his mom to help take care of her. Well, I couldn't do it. I was like, I have been out of my mother's house since I was 18 years old. I can't live with your mother. I just can't do it. You know, I'll help you take care of her. We'll do whatever we need to do. But I cannot uproot my children and we move in with their mother. And I can't do it. And that caused a big rift. And so that's ultimately why, he was upset. He didn't communicate that he was upset. I knew that he was upset.
Mhm.
And he went and found someone else to keep him company at work. So when I found that out, it was like, okay, have fun.
Wow.
It's funny when we think about blended family and we only think about the children, but there's also, like the mom, the grandmom,
Mhm.
And I just realized because it's the whole family, and that is how should I say it, another responsibility that sometimes we don't think about, especially if maybe you're close to your parents, or if you are, if you in your mind, you say to yourself while you're single, if anything happened to my parents, they are going to come and live with me. But then not thinking that whether or not would my wife or would my husband be okay, that if something was to happen, that they can, like you just said, like move in. and so for me that's interesting for us to think about, because with a blended family you have to know that, like for me, if my mom and dad was alive, being married to my husband, it wasn't even a question. They'll just be moving in. He will know it, he will know because of the way that I am. But sometimes it's not, sometimes it's some people can't handle that because it's a lot.
And I had no problem. My issue was not helping him take care of his mother or her come. We were in a 2-bedroom apartment. We didn't have the space for that. So I never had a problem helping him with his mother. My issue was moving to her house. I was like, that's not going to end well. No. I just couldn't do it. I felt bad for changing the program in the middle, but I was like, we can work something out where, we can rotate and that she'll be okay. But I just could not move in and take care of her. I just couldn't do it. I had been on my own since I was 18. I didn't want to go live with my mom. I definitely didn't want to go live with his. So I was like, yeah, no, I can't.
I like that. I respect that, though. Yeah, you were honest with yourself instead of saying, yes, I'm going to do it to keep the relationship. You were honest with how you felt, and you are also willing to say, let's see how we can work this out. So in that way, she's happy and comfortable, or or whatever. So I like that. I like you were brave enough. Because some people are not brave. Some people will do it and they're miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a big mouth, so that's not going to happen.
So how did your son begin to reconcile or begin to be okay with your husband?
Quite frankly, he didn't until he was an adult.
He
didn't until he was an adult.
Wow.
He learned through trial and error and a lot of talking with his own father and myself and my mother. And, because the extended family, we all got along wonderfully. His mother, his grandmother, my mother, we all blended just fine. My son, he struggled. And he didn't, and I think it was because of a day that he spent with my husband. They were out of school. I had to work. I couldn't take off. So my husband was like, oh, he can stay with me. My son hung out with him and they had a good day. But my son took some Pokemon cards from a store. And my husband told me. And so he was upset that my husband told me. So he held on to that for a long while.
Wow.
And the funny thing is, he held on to that from when he was like 8 years old. But when my son was a teenager and in high school and was going to the skating rink and, him and his friend needed to be picked up or dropped off, my husband was always the one doing that. They would be high and my husband would conceal that from me and not tell me those things because he was like, no. He really allowed my son to be a teenager and stopped me from intervening in that by keeping it within themselves. So, my husband spent more time with him than his dad did because he was in the house. And we ultimately began to have my bonus son every other week. So he was here. He spent the summers here, the holidays here. It was a struggle when my bonus son became older because he felt like he missed the family dynamic because he grew up with his mom and his sister visiting his dad and his stepmother and his brothers. So he struggled with that for a while, as did my bonus daughter. And they began to have some animosity toward my husband and I's son because they were jealous that he had both of his parents together under one roof all of his life. They didn't have that.
Gotcha.
So going through that with them to help them understand that while that was the case for our son, that wasn't his choice. That was an adult choice. We chose to be together and to remain together.
Mm-hmm.
His dad didn't marry or create a life with either of their mothers, as the life that I had with my oldest son's father dissolved. So even though they all got along and played real well together and hung out a lot together, when they got older, there was some animosity from my bonus children because they didn't grow up like our son grew up in a two-parent household.
Mm-hmm.
When our son grew up, he was like, Mom, my friend doesn't have a mom and a dad. He only has a mom. Or my friend doesn't have a mom and a dad. He only has a grandma. And so trying to help them understand the family dynamics and what that looks like as they were growing up was something that wasn't easy all the time. But my way of dealing with that was communicating with them and helping them understand what was happening, why it was happening, and making sure that they knew that they could always come and talk to me about it, whatever it was. So even going through with my bonus son, the fact that he didn't have the mom and dad under the same roof as he, we had to talk that through. And I said, well, maybe you didn't have that over here because that just isn't the way things played out. But, you still had it here at your home, at the house that we all reside in together. We went through a lot of things together as a family. I mean, all four of our children graduated from high school, which is saying a lot these days. We had a home built from the ground up. They were a part of that. So even now, so these four children, they still struggle in their own right with different things, maybe their relationship with their dad. My son, they didn't know their grandmother or their great grandmother because they passed away when they were little.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't have that relationship. They knew. We showed them pictures and that. My husband's father, he died in 2020, but they had the best relationship with my father-in-law. He taught them how to play chess. He taught them a lot of things that I don't think they would have gotten without that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when you had those, because I remember you saying he let him be a teenager and growing through that, what did discipline? Because even what I know about you, okay, I get your struggle, but you're not going to disrespect my house. You're not going to disrespect my spouse. What did that look like? Did you have to encounter issues like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is why my ex-husband stepped in because my husband, of course, he said that that's not my child. I'll let his dad handle that. I am the disciplinarian.
Okay.
He was the one that would be like, oh, there, no, 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 no. You know, I believe wholeheartedly spare the rod, spoil the child. So, and I have boys, and eventually they were going to be bigger than me, and they are, all three of them. So I need you to understand that that's not happening here, not with me, not under my roof. So, whereas my husband would be more passive about things and let things slide, and I was not that way. So, I feel like that's why my husband kept things or allowed him to do things as a teenager, because he knew I wouldn't have gone for it.
Mm-hmm.
Did all of the children call you mom when they were at y'all's house? My kids did. I don't think the bonus kids used a name for me at all. I think they would just wait until I asked them a question, or if they wanted my attention, they would tap me or touch me to get my attention. There wasn't a name associated with me until they got a little older and felt like they could trust me. So now I'm moms. I'm moms to my bonus children.
Okay.
My bonus son, that's my child. I mean, I know he has a whole mother and all of the things. You know, that's my son. That's my son. And we talk at least once a week. If I don't hear from him, I'm calling. Like, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
Why haven't I seen you? Where you been? What's going on? You know, we have conversations all the time. So yeah, that's my son.
I love it.
All of the kids, they talk to me. They don't talk to my husband. He's like, I'll be like, oh, have you talked to? And he's like, no. I'll be like, oh. He was like, you did. I was like, yeah. And we talk about that. Now we have grandkids. So
Nice. Okay. How many grandchildren do you have?
6.
Okay. All right. So what's it like now? Get-togethers with the 4 children and now the grandchildren, the husband, the wife.
So my his daughter still lives in Arizona, and she has 2 toddlers, so she hasn't been out here in a while.
Okay.
But every year we have a barbecue, and all the kids are there, all the grandkids, all the kids that they hung out with and grew up with are there. My mother is there. It's a lot of people everywhere. The kids, especially our son, they live for it. They can't wait for that event because there's just people everywhere.
I like that.
We have when my bonus son turned 21, my husband and I and his mother and uncle and sisters, we all did a celebration. So there's depending on what it is, we can come together. When my son graduated, my oldest graduated first, but then when my bonus son graduated, we were all there. I even have a picture with him and his mom and myself.
Do all the kids interact with each other? Do they all have like a relationship? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
They do. They all have a relationship. You know, kids, they got text. Well, and actually, they're not even kids. I keep calling them kids because they're my kids, but the oldest is 34 and the youngest is 23. So, but they have a group text. And they talk to each other more than they talk to us, of course.
I like that. I like that.
It wasn't easy.
Oh no. And I got a feeling that all blending of the family is not easy in the beginning. But what I have noticed and heard in this series is the perseverance that pays off. Because even with initially his two children and then your son prior to you all getting together, the perseverance through that has paid off because to some degree you have relationship even with the daughter, if I didn't miss that.
Correct.
So yeah, so that perseverance has brought some kind of bonding that is needed. And I feel like even if they act like they don't, they know you'll be there for them. And
Absolutely.
they could call you when the rubber meets the road. Like, I know I'm acting like I don't like her right now, but I need to talk to somebody and she the real deal. So let me get this over with.
And I always encourage them to communicate, work it out. I can hear what you have to say, but there's two sides, you know, there, and I'm not going to be in the middle of that. So you can tell me whatever it is, and I'm going to ask you questions because I want to know, did you communicate that? How did you communicate that? Or why didn't you communicate that? Why did you feel that way? What happened for you to get here? I'm asking questions because I want you to play that back and think about the situation, because I tell them, like, this relationship that you have with your siblings can't be replaced. And if something happens, you will struggle. You will definitely struggle. I buried two siblings. It's not something, no, you need to ensure that you keep the lines of communication open. And regardless of what happens between you, you're still siblings.
That's right.
You're still siblings, and you need to figure out a way to move past that and get through it. You know, it's not a toxic energy or any of those things, so it can be resolved. I'm fortunate in that regard. They don't have toxic relationships. They don't fight and do that. I mean, you know, when they were kids, of course they acted a fool. When they were younger, you know, my oldest son, he used to walk by his little brothers and punch him in the chest just because. So
it's a whole guy thing.
I'm like, so you gonna quit? I said, you're gonna quit hitting my kids. Leave my kids alone. Oh, they'll be all right.
I love it. Well, as we are, do you ladies, Selena, Sandra, do you have any questions for her?
No, ma'am.
No.
As we wind down, first of all, thank you for sharing a portion of your life with us. As we wind down, what would you like blended families and those that are in the future will be blending their family? What would you like them to know? Like a word of encouragement or something for them to keep in mind?
I don't think that we would have made it this far without God and communication. There were some times where I was like, yeah, I can't do this. I'm done. Like this is too much. This is too much. But when you go into a relationship, a marriage, and you know that there are other children involved and you're becoming a blended family, you have to prepare yourself. And you have to be just as accepting of those children as you are of that spouse.
I like that you said that. Because you know, some people, I used to hear this a lot growing up. Well, I'm not marrying his kids, I'm marrying him. Yes, you are.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
When my dad remarried, I told her, I said, oh, yeah, there's 4 of us and we ain't going nowhere.
Exactly.
You married him. We came with the package.
Exactly.
You don't get to drop the luggage off nowhere and just have the main piece. You got to take us all, and we're going to help you with that. Yeah. So I love that. That's something that stayed at the forefront. Like, listen, this is a whole package deal. Awesome.
I think that for other people that may have not grown up in a single parent home or that had siblings growing up, it may be a little easier. I had none of those things.
Mm-hmm.
He had all of those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so my biggest hurdle with myself was stepping aside and allowing him to be the man. I didn't know how to do that. It's not something that I ever saw. I didn't witness that. I didn't know what that looked like.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. Well, listen, you was doing something. It's 22 years in the making, and you smiling.
Listen, it ain't always a smile, because I'll tell you, there be some days I don't like him.
Oh, absolutely.
I tell him I don't like him. I'm like, we're not friends. I still love you, but today we're not friends. He know.
That is funny.
He will know. My mom or one of the kids will be asking me or something about him. I'll be like, I don't know. We're not friends today. We're not friends today.
Too funny. Too funny. Well, Carlotta, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And y'all know how this ends. We love you, and there's absolutely nothing you could do about it. Bye.
Bye.
God has a purpose. God has a plan. I'm living his will. He's got me in his hands. I'm chilling, chilling, chilling with purpose. God has a purpose. God has a plan. I'm living his will. He's got me in his hands. I'm chilling.